You know, webheads, I would think twice before you go into your favorite chicken establishment. I'm just saying. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, I am your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy. And today, guys, I'm bringing you another episode of After the Poll. That's right, guys. This is the video series where I take 6 of my most highly anticipated comic books and I sit there and tell you if they live up to the hype and if you should pick them up. But in this week's After the Poll, there's a couple of books that I actually did not anticipate, and I kind of just bought them off of impulse. So before we get started, guys, if you want to help support the channel, just go ahead and hit that join button right there on my home screen. Guys, it does help support the channel tremendously, and it does give you, the viewers, a few extra perks. So guys, let's get started with this week's episode. So the first book that we're going to be talking about today is Arkham City, The Order of the World, Issue 1. Now, I was kind of on the fence about this book, but it seemed like an interesting premise where we have Arkham Asylum, which is kind of no more since the A-Day happened in Joker War, right? It's been infected by all this gas. Inmates have died. Inmates have actually I guess escaped, and now they're kind of all over Gotham City. And then we have Dr. Joy, who's the one that has to try and find these characters and try to put them in a place so they don't run amok in Gotham, right? This book was a snooze fest. I did not like this book whatsoever. You know, Dr. Jacosta Joy is the one that sits there and narrates this whole thing. And what made this book even worse was just the artwork. It tried to have like this creepy tone to it, but it just did not work for me. It was absolutely just atrocious, you know? I just, oh my God, I did not like the facial features. I did not like all the characters in there. There's the 10-eyed man in there, and it's just like, he was a little creepy, you know, but the effect that they were going for, just, I don't know, they tried going for this mysterious effect, and it was just boring. Like, I didn't care about learning about all the inmates that escaped and the history of Arkham Asylum and the ghost of Arkham Asylum and everything else. And you find out that Dr. Joy is hiding the 10-eyed man in one of her apartments while she's, you know, studying them, because she doesn't feel that obviously they should go to a normal prison because they're sick. There was this one character that I cared about in the book that was a war veteran, and people misunderstood him for a, you know, sicko or a freak because he got burnt in Iraq, and people beat up on him, and it just was a bad day for him from that point on out. And that was the one thing that I cared about in this book. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and it had only maybe 4 panels of his story in there. So besides that, I really did not care for this book. Definitely not going to be picking up the second issue. If you liked it, that's great. Let me know in the comments below. But if you have not got your books yet, I would say pass on this. It's a $5 book. Definitely not worth it, in my opinion. Book number 2 that we're going to be talking about this week, it goes to the Me You Love in the Dark. This is issue 3. Now, followers of my channel know how much I really enjoy this series. I think this series actually is quite interesting, quite different, as we get this struggling artist that moved into this haunted house to try to get some inspiration. And along the way now, she found out that, yes, there is a ghost in this house, and she's developing this relationship with this ghost. Now, again, Scotty Young is the writer of this. This is the same creative team as Middle West, and I love the artwork in this. I love the facial expressions. I love the character of Ro, and there's not a lot of dialogue in this book. It's a very simplistic, like, love story between the supernatural and obviously a human being in this book, and it looks good, and in this issue, not much has happened, but we wind up learning that the Ghost and Ro actually developed this much more intense relationship in the issue. Her art studio or whoever is sponsoring her or whatever is asking for her collection to be complete. And she asked for her release date to be pushed back because she feels like she's developing something special. This is going to be great. She just needs a little bit more time. So as time goes along, we wind up going through Halloween. We wind up going through Christmas. And then there is, Christmas time comes and, there's a special gift that she wants to give to the Ghost. And that gift is herself. So we wind up seeing that she actually has like sexual relations somehow with this Ghost. And the Ghost is like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah, shut up, dummy. Let's do this." And that's how the issue ends. And in the little preview art that you get in the next issue, you wind up finding out that Ro looks like she's very frustrated. Something's not right ever since maybe the day she spends in bed with the Ghost, and it looks like her boss or whoever it is comes to the house for the first time, and maybe the Ghost is a little bit jealous of what's happening. So again, I don't know what to expect. This hasn't answered any of my questions. We knew that the Ghost and Ro were going to hook up with each other. It actually happened. So where does the book go from here, right? We're past the friend zone now. They're in some crazy relationship, and I think some serious stuff is going to go on. For some reason, if you can't find issue 1 and 2 on the racks, go ahead, maybe wait until the trade comes out. But if you can find these, go ahead and read it. It's definitely a quick read, but it's a good read. Comic book number 3 that we're going to be talking about today is Dark Ages issue 2. Now, Dark Ages issue 1 was a phenomenal read as we wind up getting to see our heroes do battle against this creature, I think by the name of Unmaker, and Doctor Strange creates this spell, this EMP, to shut down the creature, but it killed Doctor Strange, and it left this thing open where it created this whole EMP throughout the earth for like an eternity. And now our heroes are forced to live in this post-apocalyptic world with no electricity, period, right? So in this issue, you wind up getting to see how our heroes have survived through the past 7 years and how they're getting along and how civilization is working. The artwork is really good in this book, and I loved seeing, young Mayday Parker in this book, which was actually a lot of fun. We got to see a pretty cool Captain America in this book where he's like a little bit aged up. So that was pretty cool as well. And in this book, you just wind up seeing that obviously there's a group out there that wants to reawaken the Unmaker and kind of take over the world as his own, and that person is Apocalypse, right? Who would have thought? But the way society has survived in this time period was pretty cool. You get the X-Men that take up different regions, and then you have Wakanda as kind of like the capital of the world. So there was a lot of cool things, a lot of cool elements that were in this book. I wanted a little bit more, and we didn't quite get as much as I wanted, but it developed the plot more to be like, oh man, I can't wait to see what happens from here, because they take Magneto hostage and they're figuring out a way to create electricity again, which is pretty interesting. But I wanted a little bit more, I don't know, maybe character growth, or I wanted the world in the apocalyptic situation. Like, we got to see a little bit of that, how people were killing each other and things like that, but they quickly breezed over that and said, you know what, no, we're not going to tackle like how the world fell apart. We're just going to go on how the world reunited with each other. And I'm always the person with apocalyptic books where it's like, I want to see how the world is torn down, then I want to see how they actually, bring it back up. But they don't have time to tell that story because because this is only a mini series. Maybe they'll do a spin-off series to see how everyone got along or something like that in the future, kind of like what they did with Deceased. So I did like issue 1 better, but I do love where the story is going, and I do like kind of the enemies that they brought into this book to make everything happen. So definitely a recommend read. Can't wait to see how this story progresses. Comic book number 4 that we're talking about today is from Image Comics, and this is a book that I don't think I was going to get. And then I saw it and I said, you know what? It's a new Image book. It's independent. You kind of don't know where these books are going to go in the future, and it just seemed quite interesting. And it was Rick Remender. So I think that was the final, thought process why I should pick this book up. And it's A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. This is issue 1. Now, when you read this book is pretty much a silent issue. There's not a lot that goes on dialogue-wise, but it definitely tells a story of this guy who actually has had a really bad day. And it just starts off with his day, getting on a bus. It starts raining. It's raining on him. His cigarettes are messed up. He runs into this guy, and all the stuff spills onto the floor. And, he was forced to put a pigeon out of his misery. And there was just all kinds of just weird little bad things that happened. But along the way, he had to meet a specific woman. Now, you don't know why he had to meet up with this woman, which was quite odd. And her name was Mary Sullivan. But what happens is he comes across this horrific murder scene, and he went in there, touched the tea kettle, touched the doors, touched everything. And you find out in this book that he knows who committed the murder because it's a person that he ran into in the grocery store. And now he has to frantically leave, and he kind of doesn't know what to do with himself. So is he going to get blamed for the murder? Is he going to try to find the guy who did it because he ran into him? You don't know anything because there was no dialogue in this book. There was no explanation. But the funny thing is for real that you got to see him run into that character at the store, and he's some creepy man that buys plumber, like liquid Drano and light bulbs and freaking all kinds of other crap, and he does all that weird shit to his victims. Pretty sick scene when you saw it, but it was an interesting little story that took 2 minutes to read, and it has me absolutely hooked, dude. I don't know where this book is going to go, but Rick Remender is a phenomenal writer, so I say definitely pick this book up. There's a reason why it exists on this shelf, man, because you want to know what happens. All right, guys, book number 5 that we're talking about today is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 75. The new webhead era begins with Ben Reilly taking over the helm of being Spider-Man. Now, the one thing this book definitely has going for it is the artwork. This is definitely the best artwork that I have seen Patrick Gleason do. Here's a crazy dream sequence that Peter has in the issue. Here is also a great 2-page spread with Ben Reilly Spider-Man in it. I love the over-exaggerated eyes. I love that. Big eyes, just so awesome. Gives the character a lot of facial expression. Reminds me of the early 90s, Spider-Man. So great artwork. What did I think of the story in this book? I actually liked it. I don't know if everybody likes this take on Spider-Man. Some people don't love Ben Reilly, but you got to understand why this book actually exists. It exists because Nick Spencer actually was leaving his run early. I think he was supposed to last longer. His story abruptly ended. I think he was at least to stay around to issue 100. And he left at issue 74, right? So Marvel had to scramble and say, what are we going to do with Spider-Man at this point? Well, we're going to get a whole bunch of creators on the book, come up with a story, get to issue 900. Then by then, we'll have our new creative team in true direction or where we want to take the character. So whatever happens, this is not going to last, obviously, right? But we wind up getting to see Ben Reilly in this book and Peter Parker, and they're both at different points in their lives. Peter's going through some things right now. PTSD of maybe the loss of Harry for the second time, the whole Kindred situation, what he went through. Even though the story wasn't written very well, we can see that he's going through some shit right now. While Ben Reilly has been offered a job by this Beyond Corporation to be Spider-Man, and for somehow they got the trademark that he is Spider-Man, and it had to go based off of the days of Peter Parker Industries, right? So Ben Reilly tries to do the respectable thing and just sits there and says, well, you know, I am going to be Spider-Man and you can be too, but I'm the true Spider-Man now. So it's kind of a douchey thing to do, but it was a quite interesting take. And kind of Peter he can't really do anything about it, which I thought was quite interesting because he can't. He just can't. So, you know, to get his mind off of things, you know, he tries to go web slinging, you know, he blows off Mary Jane a little bit. And I feel like Mary Jane is a little bit too like drama princess in this issue. You know, she's not that hard rock, but whatever. She was only in this for a little bit. They come across the UFOs in this book, and the two of them start doing battle against them at Empire State University, right? And Ben's suit is heavily equipped with a ton of tech, so he could take like damage, filtration systems, all kinds of stuff. So when the UFOs, you get all the radiation on the two Spider-Men, and the buildings collapse and things like that. Peter is very badly hurt, you know, and Ben Reilly's absolutely fine. So this goes back to the next issue on that cover where you see Peter Parker in the hospital bed. So because of what's going on in this issue, now you understand why Peter Parker now is out of commission because of this battle, and now this is the point where Ben Reilly is going to be the Spider-Man for right now. So based off of what's going on in this issue, that's what I'm assuming, right? I did not mind this story. It's just a temporary thing. I love the action. I love the art. And I just love how it was just a different story. We've been getting issues of Kindred, and I looked it up yesterday. I think it was since issue 44. We've been dealing with The Last Remains and Sins Past and Sinister War and all that stuff. So this is a great little change of pace of things for me, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I'm not sure where you guys stand on Spider-Man. I recommend it. Go ahead and check it out. And the last comic book that we're going to be talking about today is the best one that I have read so far, and this one is called Chicken Devil by Aftershock Comics. Let me just tell you guys, this book was a awesome surprise. Now, the artwork in this book might not be for everybody. It's kind of like this muddied, painted type of style, like watercolor style, and it's a little bit hectic. It's a little bit all over the place, but this story was so much fun, and it was so humorous, but yet very serious, right? So here's the story. So it's about this guy who is an owner of a chicken franchise, right? And so he has this partner by the name of Antonio, and there was a fire that happens at one of the restaurants. Well, his partner Antonio is kind of doing things off to the side that, let's just say, is not legal, right? He's selling drugs to the Russian mafia and through these restaurants. So when the place catches on fire, the Russians actually go after Antonio, and real quick they come up with this plan on a way to possibly escape, right? So Mitch takes his family. He's like, we gotta go. And so they go in this yacht, and he's like, I gotta do one thing real quick. And his family gets on the yacht, and the yacht blows up, and his entire family dies. And he's like, he doesn't know what to do, so he still gets on the phone with Antonio, and they have this plan that they can go, but he's gotta go to this locker, and the people are still chasing him. And so to kind of go undercover, he wears the chicken costume from his restaurant so no one can follow him in and stuff. Oh my God, guys, this is so great. But I gave you the premise of the story, but you actually have to read the dialogue, because the dialogue while you're reading this is absolutely hysterical. And even the moments that you have, the brief moments that you had with Mitch's family, was actually really good. So you get attached to them real quickly, and as a father, you hurt when his family is lost, and what he's going through is absolutely painful. This is such a great book. It is so well done, and I definitely recommend this. I don't know how many of these are going to be on the rack, but it is going to be a great treat when you read this. And at the end of it, you got to read the end, because it has Mitch's hot chicken, and it has their entire story of how they started their business, and it gives you their actual menu of what you can order and whatnot. Dude, it's so awesome. It was just a nice surprise, and I love when comic books do that. So guys, I say definitely pick out or check out Chicken Devil. And like I said, when you go to your favorite chicken place, think twice of what's going on behind closed doors. So there you guys have it. There are some of my thoughts on the books that I read so far this week. Will Chicken Devil hold on to that #1 spot? We'll soon find out. And of course, guys, any books that you have recommendations for me, go ahead and leave in the comments below as well. So as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss any content from me. And if you like my content as well, I'll leave you more right here to click on. So until next time, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, and most importantly, always keep reading those comic books. Take care, guys. Bye.